Hello, welcome to the Danzen Museum Record, a video record of the Danzen Museum. I am Cluug, Moins, Psychedelic Historian. Today we have inventor Danzen with us, and Danzen, where would you like to go in our second episode?
Thanks there, Clug. Yes, why don't we go to the Danzen site at danzen.com, and then we'll move on up to the tour area. Now, this was set up to work on mobile as well. On mobile, you would only see a little bit of it, and then if you pressed the tour area, it would bring you up to the tour. Let's go to the formation tour. So the formation tour tells us what the internet was like in 1995 when Danzen was created. Each of the tours have different rooms, so you can press on rooms to go directly to the room, or you can just scroll down and pass into each room. So here's what was happening in the Danzen world before the site was created. We were working on interactive CD-ROMs on Marshall McLuhan and playing music and writing mystery parties for launch on small discs. Can you believe it? And this was with Shockwave, which was Director, which was used for CD-ROMs. And Director was then placed online, and it was the first time that people could drag things. And as a matter of fact, Word Warp was launched the next day. Danzen went to the Macromedia conference in 1995, 1996, can't remember which one. And we saw that Director, now what we were doing with CD-ROMs, could be put on the internet. So this was Word Warp, where you could drag little letters around. So it was an exciting time, along with all of the advert gaming, which I called amusements. At the time, I had typed in interactive advertising into web crawler, which is pre-Google, into web crawler, and it didn't exist. So I was pioneering at the time the interactive advertising using various games to get across messages and so forth. Here's the first Danzen site, and so the tour continues on and talks about what it was like and what the early games were, etc. Now, in this series, the Danzen Record, we're not worried so much about these HTML pages going missing. What we're more worried about is the actual games themselves, to be able to go into the games. So I don't want to spend too much time going through the tour, just a quick overview to the fact that they're here. So that is the formation tour. There's also the creativity tour, which has been very important for me all along. I usually am not just making creations, but also the tools to make creations. So I'm helping people make things. For instance, op art. Here, Opartica is a tool, and these are the creations that I've done with OpArt, but also allowing other people to use OpArt to make similar type creations. So talking about creativity from that angle, there's storytelling tools, etc. And this tour will also take you through what it's like to create a project. So there's a thing called the creativity framework, which I made a little while back, that was 10 years worth of sort of analysis of how I create, and then a synthesis is into a way to create, so analysis, synthesis. Given TED Talk, TEDx talks on that kind of thing. So the creativity framework is there for you to see, and here's an example of using it, then creating sketches and final products. So this sort of the creative process, and then a look at further sketches and so forth, and what ends up happening, like all the assets that are made, where we're doing the creation, etc. Whoop. Then there's the biography tour, so a little bit about where I grew up and the influences of nature versus nurture. So what my parents were doing, how I grew up through the hippie ages and working on all these creations as I was younger, making a lot of games and gadgets all the way along physically, and then moving into the digital world as well with that. Shots of the workshop and family, career, so how I've been putting that into my career and so forth, various awards and the culture that is surrounding. There is, so that's a biography tour. The Nodism tour is the philosophy of Nodism, which is all about hierarchies, and that's been moved much into the creativity framework as well. And people who code interactive media, or who basically code, they're modeling life. They're making games and simulations and so forth. And so very logical people modeling life using object-oriented programming, for instance, that's called, those are called philosophers and a philosophy. So I treat people who code as philosophers, and they're all part of the Nodist colony for Nodism. So an overview of Nodism and some of the sketches, many sketches about that. Whoop. And then coding itself. So I've been teaching coding to artists and designers, well, everybody, anybody, for a long time. So very simplified versions of how code works. And please, this is for everybody. Come on in here and help you understand the information age, if you so desire, like what artificial intelligence is. I've won programming awards, but also teaching awards in interactive media for that. So this is a good place to get into it. So that's a coding tour, as well as various histories of my coding through the various tools and so forth to a few years back. There's the marketing tour. That's one thing, since Danzen didn't have a marketing team, and we invented various aspects of marketing, including interactive advertising, viral marketing. So there have been games where people are invited to come and play the game and to be in a blimp or to be shrunk in a bottle, well, without them knowing it, that kind of stuff. Advert gaming as well, so the or what people now call, let's see, what's a term for that, gamification. I called it amusements back in 1995, 1996. As well as a whole technique of guerrilla marketing, Danzen stones, posters, stickers. After levitation, visit Danzen, we're in elevators, and so forth. And different ways of handling shareware and freeware and sticker campaigns and all that kind of stuff. The world's tallest hat. So you can read about, right into memes, very early on memes. Read about memes came up during the Marshall McLuhan CD-ROMs in 1995, so you can see that that's quite ahead of the time of our usage of memes recently, but that's all right. Got on Dragon's Den for mobile mediated. I promote with devices around the neck called Mobidalians, etc., etc., etc. So all sorts of things on the marketing side as well. So those are the Danzen tours. It was just a quick tour of the tour. I hope that's all right, Cluug, Moins, because in the next while, I definitely want to take a look at the Explore of the Danzen Museum when we return. Why, thank you very much there, Inventor Danzen. This is Cluug, Moins for the Danzen Museum Record Series. We look forward to exploring the specific games and gadgets of Danzen when we return. All the best. Bloop, bloop.